Welcome everyone to the Difference Makers Show. Today's topic is publishing secrets. What does it take to be a bestseller? You're going to be learning about what you need to know to sell your book. What work is involved after you publish your book? And even more exciting, what do you need to know to get your book to be a bestseller? You're going to be finding out all these answers and more from a story publishing expert, Suzy Prudden, a leader in the publishing field, a woman who can make a big difference in your success. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm Lynn Sanders, your host and the story expert, and I'm really excited about our expert today. I'd like to introduce Suzy Pruden to you. She's not only a very talented friend and colleague, but she's an internationally recognized author, a speaker, a publishing expert, and she's been recognized by some of the top celebrities around the world. If you don't know Suzy, you need to. Her website has recommendations from people like Oprah, Deepak Chopra, Dina Ornish, and many more. She has a great deal of value to give you today. So without further ado, let's welcome Suzy Pruden.
Thank you, Lynn. It's really, really nice to be here.
I'm so glad you made the time to be here because I know you have a very busy schedule. So let's start out first with a question that probably is in the back of everyone's mind. How did you get started in writing books, Suzy?
I have a very unusual way of getting started. In 1971, I was living in New York City, and I had a fitness school, and I specialized in toddlers. And I also had a summer camp in East Hampton, Long Island. And during the summer of 71, I was at a cocktail party in East Hampton. I met an editor, Joni Evans, who worked for William Morrow. And I told her all about my book for toddlers, exercise book for toddlers. And she said she'd love to see an outline. Did I have one? I said, of course I do, or yes. And she said, I'd like to pick it up on my way back to New York City on Monday morning, because they were going to drive right by my house. So I wrote the outline over the weekend, and she came by on Monday morning. I handed her the outline. She called me on Thursday, said, we'd like to buy your book. And they offered me $3,000.
Oh my God.
And it was my first book. And I said, wow, thank you. I'll talk to Jeffrey and get back to you. I hung up the phone with Joni and picked up the phone and called William Morris Agency. And I said, hi, this is Suzy Pruden. I have just sold a book to William Morrow and I need an agent. And they assigned an agent to me. And I had that agent for about 5 or 6 years after that as well. And so she negotiated a contract and got me $5,000. The problem was I could, see, Lynn, I knew that William Morrow was not buying my book, so to speak. They were buying my name because my name, Pruden, is second generation fitness. Bonnie Pruden is my mother. She started the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports. And I took her name when I went into fitness. So Joni was buying the name Pruden. I couldn't write. So my husband wrote the book with my exercises and my information, and it came out in 72. So that was my first book. And then I've written 11 and 11 fitness. Well, there's 9 fitness books, 2 body mind books. And that picture over my right shoulder is Oprah. And I worked with Oprah 4 times, once in 1981. And when she was in Baltimore, a newscaster, 83 in Baltimore, when she was a newscaster, 86, when she was the host for Good Morning Chicago, or Chicago AM, it was a Chicago morning show. And then in 89, when it was the Oprah show, and she featured my book, Meta Fitness, Your Thoughts Taking Shape, published by Hay House.
Wow. Well, you know, there's a saying that success leaves trails. And people,
Yes.
I think, who want to get to know how they can get to be successful need to listen to your tips today.
Absolutely, Lynn, because success is not an accident. It's not an accident. You have to take every opportunity, every door. And my attitude has always been say yes and figure it out.
I love that. I love that because, most people, myself included, want to get everything just right, just perfect. And sometimes you can't do that.
That's a form of sabotage. So it's better to get it out there with typos than not get it out there at all. You can always correct the typos.
Right, right, exactly. So what do writers need to know to sell their books? What advice can
What's
you give?
important, Lynn, is for an author to know that the work really begins after you publish the book. The writing part, whereas it's daunting, and you may circle the wagon, so to speak, and go around and around and around, should I write this? Should I write that? Just write it. What I tell all of my authors is that after you write the book, that's when you go to work to publicize the book, to get the visibility, to sell your book. I was very, very lucky. I was writing books in the 70s and 80s and 90s before the internet. So my publishers would send me out on tour, and I would do 22 cities in 3 to 4 weeks.
Unbelievable.
It was grueling. It was truly grueling. I remember when I was on tour with Meta Fitness, and I think I was in Chicago, and I'd been on the road for 2 weeks already, different city every day. And I called my sister and I said, I think I need to come home. I'm eating a hot fudge sundae and drinking a glass of wine, and they don't go together.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's a laugh now, but I was really, I did come home for a weekend. I brought myself home and then went back on the road again because it's grueling. But that's what you have to know as a writer. It doesn't end with the end of the book. It just begins with the end of the book. And you have to look at who is your audience, and you have to get in front of them.
So
and you could do that on Facebook, on
yeah.
LinkedIn, on Twitter. And it's so interesting now, we have Zoom. You can get on all kinds of people's lists and talk about your book. You need to carry it in the trunk of your car. You need to keep it in your briefcase or purse. I have stories about my authors who this author here, Pam, she wrote a book on space, and she's standing in the line at Costco and talking about her book. And the woman said, may I see it? And Pam said, yes. And then the woman said, how much is it? Pam said, $10. And she bought the book. So
right.
You have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. You know what I've always been impressed by you, Susie, is you know how to take writers and authors by the hand and very gently guide them to a bestseller status. And right before we talked, you told me, I wrote it down, that you have been you've been in the book business since 1971, as you mentioned, the 70s, but you've been helping writers get to be bestsellers through your campaigns, and you have 86 bestsellers.
We did our 86th bestseller campaign last week. We now have 86 bestsellers, and there's a method to it. When I was publishing in the 70s and 80s and 90s, people had to go into the bookstore. It's very different today. People don't have to go into the bookstore. Especially with Amazon. With the New York Times, there's certain writers that sell massive books, massive numbers of books. And then there's certain authors who buy their way onto the Times. And it's no longer, when I was writing books in the 70s, you had to get people into the bookstore. That's why we went on tour. And so it was with my book, Spot Reducing, that my husband and I were in Detroit when I got a call from my editor saying, you made it to the Times. And I was on tour at that time. So it was a very heady experience. But today it's different. We do an Amazon bestseller campaign for all of our authors. And it starts 10 days. There's always one day when you have to make a certain number of sales, and it's different every time, in order to get to the #1 on Amazon. So 10 days before that campaign starts, or during that campaign, we start sending out to our lists, to our Facebooks, to our LinkedIn, bestseller campaign coming up. This is the book. You can get it for 99 cents on this particular day. Buy it on this particular day. Buy it on this particular day. That's what we do as a company. And we ask our author, please send this to your list. And so some of our authors do and some of our authors don't. When our authors do, then it's a combo. We had one author who was on Amazon bestseller list for over a week because he got all of his people on it as well. So we do that for our authors. It comes, quote unquote, in our package that when we're working with authors. So that it's included in the
I love that.
In the package. Yeah.
What does it mean to be an Amazon bestseller? Do they have to all hit a certain number?
It's different every time, Lynn, and thank you for asking. There are certain categories that you sign up for. You need 3 categories in Amazon. So you sign up the book into those 3 categories. And then when people buy it, then depending on how many other people are doing their own campaign that day, it's a race to the top. And so that's why we keep saying, buy the book, buy the book. On bestseller day, we send out letters every 3 hours. Wow. We're doing a bestseller campaign next Thursday. And I wrote the letter last night. It's going out today, the first letter. And then there'll be another letter on Friday. Then there'll be another letter on Monday. And then there'll be a short letter on Wednesday. And then Thursday, it's buy it now, buy it now, buy it now. It's amazing. It's from 12:01 on Wednesday night to 11:59 on Thursday, p.m. 12:09 a.m., 12:01 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. on a Thursday. We choose a Thursday because that's the big houses choose Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So it's a system.
It's a strategy.
And when you become a bestseller, people pay more attention to you. And that's what we want our authors to get.
I love that. And you're so strategic. It all has to be on one day. Everyone has to buy on that day.
On that day.
But
now, if it spills over, Lynn, which it did with John, his spilled over. Now, that's this book here.
Yeah, I'd like you to share some of the success stories.
This book, here we go. This book, I think it was on the list for about at least 10 days to 2 weeks, because he really pulled his weight in marketing it. And we get the push going, and then it's up to the author after that. And that's a very important point, because we will do the initial push, and then it's up to the author. So this one, Pam again, I love this story. Pam is a space fanatic. It's not her business, it's her passion. And she wrote this book. She wants it to be a business. She wrote this book on space. She took it to the Boys and Girls Club of America. She said, your kids need to know about space. And they said, yes, they do. And I would like to speak to your kids. And they said, yes, we would like you to speak to our kids.
Great.
And we would like to buy your book. We need to raise the money. She said, okay. And they are now raising money to buy her book. She's speaking to the Boys and Girls Club. I'm not quite sure how the setup is because of COVID right now, but I told her the other day, I said, Pam, when you first started talking to them, you would have to travel to all of these Boys and Girls Clubs. Now you can do it all on Zoom. So, it's interesting, as our world shut down, it opened up.
Yeah.
So they're buying the book. There are 4 million kids in the Boys and Girls Club.
Show us again the book cover and the name of the author, Pam. What is her last name?
Pam Hoffman.
Let's acknowledge her. Congratulations, Pam.
She's the courage. She's the one standing. She's very aggressive is the wrong word, but standing anyway. She in the supermarket, at Costco. This gentleman, this is another great story.
Go ahead.
I have wonderful.
I love to hear them.
This gentleman, he wrote a book on safety.
Name? I can't see his name.
His name is Stephen Carpenter.
Okay.
All right. So Stephen is a safety expert in construction. And he was head of safety for the Apple building in San Francisco, which is a mile long. It was his job to make sure that every single worker that walked onto that site in the morning walked off safe in the evening. Now, he worked with 31 contractors. I mean, it's a huge endeavor. This book was translated into Chinese. The Chinese government invited him to China to change and upgrade their safety protocol and lower pollution.
Oh,
This
wow.
is an itty bitty book, a little tiny book.
Yeah.
It's 15 chapters, 2 pages each, so it's 30 pages. She's working with the Boys and Girls Club of America. He was invited to China. And then we have, there's so many wonderful
You know, and
stories.
everyone is noticing something. They're itty bitty books. Explain that, because you have more than one publishing company. And I love how you've created a framework that helps people really prosper and get known. Tell us what makes itty bitty publishing unique.
Well, itty bitty was I did not know that I was going to be a publisher. And what happened is my sister and I, yes, right here. My sister and I took a workshop, I think it was 2006. Now, I've written a lot of books. My sister's written a lot of books, and we've been in publishing forever. But we weren't publishers. We've self-published. And I want to address that for a moment. For those of you who are watching, if you're considering self-publishing, be careful. Just be careful. We made every mistake you can make, hopefully, and because I don't want to make any more. So I was in a workshop, and I was in the weight loss industry at that time as a hypnotherapist at a weight loss center in Beverly Hills. And the workshop leader, James Malinchak, was saying, write a small book. Now, all of my books previously had been big books. I said, okay. All right, Suzy Pruden's itty bitty weight loss book. It just fell out of my mouth. And we got back to Los Angeles, and I didn't have time because I was running the company. My sister wrote the book. We did not know what we were doing. This was the cover, this was the book. And at that time you had to buy 2,000 copies. I think I have 1,800 left.
Oh my gosh.
I know, and they're in the garage. It didn't sell. In 2014, I asked her to redo the cover because this cover didn't work, and make it smaller. So she wrote.
I hope everyone's noticing the little things you did to tweak it. The itty bitty weight loss book.
See,
oh, great.
This cover we had used in advertising, and it worked. So this is the amazing itty bitty weight loss book. And I'm looking at the book that she's showing me. She was visiting me for the holidays. And I said, don't you want my name on the top? Because my name's been on everything since 1965. She said, I don't care. And I said, looking at it, I said, well, actually, this is $1 million business. We were in business 3 days later. We had our first author 2 weeks later, signed up, and our first published book 6 weeks later.
Wow.
And it's been, and then this gentleman, so that's how itty bitty started. Now, the reason itty bitty works, 95% of Americans don't read, and they all need information. We have no story in itty bitty. I have another publishing company called Legacy Press. It's all story. This is a gentleman from Australia who basically had a brain tumor, and in his healing process, he became extremely spiritual, and he basically disappeared for 3 days. He doesn't know where he went. Nobody knows where he went. The Aborigines helped bring him back. And he tells that story about in healing himself, he healed his eyes, and he also healed the vision. He now can vision, what's coming. Wow. And how to move forward in life. Very interesting man. So that's his story. So we do have a company that tells stories, but itty bitty.
So you said it's not a story, but it's
no story.
Tips.
Because my sister hates story. I like story. I read all the time. My sister hates story. So no story. The reason this works is people get the information they need immediately. Page 1 of every chapter is written in numbered sentences and paragraphs. Page 2 of every chapter is written in bullet points. And the book is meant to take people from the book to the person's website. That's where they expand on their information, and that's the way they create a relationship with the reader, author and reader, which is what you want your book to do.
I see. So would you say, is it fair to say it's like a cliff notes
Yes,
of a book?
I say thank you for saying that, Lynn. I say we're the new dummies. The difference between dummies and itty bitty. Dummies are 350 pages you have to read with a yellow highlighter.
Right.
Itty bitty books are the yellow highlights.
Amazing. It's so, I think, so brilliant. And I appreciate it because anybody could probably come up with an itty bitty book. If they have an expertise in one area, they can create their own itty bitty idea,
Absolutely.
right? And then
it's an interesting thing. And that's a good point, because this book, my marijuana book, which was one of our early books, marijuana was not legal yet in California, but it was legal in Washington State. And Kat is from Washington State. I met Kat at a seminar in Las Vegas, CEO Space, which is, I think, where I met you. And she handed me her card and said, yes, she wanted to write a book. So I called her and I said, tell me about yourself. And she said, well, I'm a full-blooded gypsy. I said, okay. She said, I'm a disabled vet. I said, okay. I'm a spiritual coach. I said, okay. And I'm a marijuana dispenser. I said, okay. What do you want to write about? And she said, I don't know, spiritual coaching. And I said, what? And this is an important question. So, this is the question for you, the audience.
Right.
What's the low-hanging fruit? She said,
what's the low-hanging fruit? What's the most important thing that you can share that's going to attract an audience?
It's going to attract the audience. What's the low-hanging fruit? And she said, I don't know. I said, it's pot. Why don't you write the book, Your Amazing Itty Bitty Marijuana Book, 15 Ways to Use Cannabis for Healing? She said, how did you do that? I said, that's what I do.
Right. So you're not just a publisher. You're really, sort of a book psychologist or a book publisher.
Well, I can help. I can guide someone into their genius. The next book you're going to write, I said, is How to Talk to Your Kids About Cannabis. And the next book I said, and how to do edibles correctly. And then I told her, I said, why don't you start a cannabis coaching program, certify cannabis coaches, so they can teach people how to use cannabis so they do it correctly. When she did.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard of anything like this.
Well, that's how my mind works. I can see a coaching program. I can create a certification program out of almost anything, but it's a way for the author to take full ownership of their book. And then from there, what is your book going to create for you going forward? Because it's the going forward that you have to be cognizant of.
Right. So what can people do with their book after it's done? Why don't we talk about that for a moment?
Excuse me. Well, you can create a webinar. Every chapter is a webinar. Every chapter is a seminar. Every chapter is an opportunity for you to create product so that you can have webinars, seminars, workshops. The book, I mean, what she did with the coaching program, and then she said, well, I want to do Mary Jane parties. All of her cannabis coaches that are certified conduct the Mary Jane parties. So she's making money from the product. She's making money from the cannabis coaches. She's making money training the cannabis coaches. She's making money selling books. So it's huge once you get out of gotta write my book.
It's so much more than the book. That's what you're saying. And for everyone listening, they need to be aware what is the low-hanging fruit that they have that could get out to a huge audience that could then multiply for them into multiple ways of revenue, as well as using your book as a calling card for speaking.
Yes, and I want to address something when you say as a calling card, because a lot of people say your book is your business card. No, it's not. And your book is an opportunity for you can send your book to TV producers, to magazine editors, to radio hosts. That's when you give your book away. But let's say you're at a seminar, don't walk up to somebody and say, here's my business card and hand them a book. What are they going to do with it? And besides, I won't know how to reach Kat unless I actually go through this book and find it. If you're going to give a business card, give a business card. if you're going to take your book with it, sell it.
Right.
People appreciate buying it, not receiving it for free.
Right. Then it adds more value. And
Yes.
I meant in terms of credibility, having a book gives you
Absolutely. And
credibility.
having a bestseller takes you even higher. My friend Christine Blosdale, who used to work for KPFK here in Los Angeles, when she has a podcast, she's now living in Australia, and she has a fabulous podcast. If she gets two people on the same topic applying to be on her podcast, she always takes the one that has the book.
And
So
why
it positions you as the expert. It gives you, you're absolutely correct, Lynn, gives you instant credibility. So that, again, when somebody looks at this person, and this is a nice person, they don't have a book. That's a nice person, they have a book, I'm taking this person.
Right. And I think it raises the esteem of that
Yes.
person. Oh, that person has taken enough time to write their thoughts into a book and get it published.
Yes.
That means you're being recognized by someone.
And you're being serious.
You know, I just thought of a question I hadn't asked you before. It just came to my mind. I'm wondering, have you ever recommended someone wait before publishing a book? I mean, have you ever been
absolutely.
approached by people said they want to publish and you don't feel ready to publish?
Absolutely, Lynn, and thank you for that question. I will not take every author, and they pay me to publish their books. But if a person doesn't have a business to back up the book, I say, look, this is too expensive a proposition for you to do it just because it's a good idea, unless they have tons of money and it doesn't matter to them. Well, I was talking to somebody recently who wanted to do a book on smoking. I said, well, what's your business? And he said, insurance. I said,
Oh, no.
Why do you want to do a book on smoking? He said, well, I want to help people stop smoking. I said, do you expect people to buy your book and you make money back selling books to stop smoking? He said, yes. I said, it's not going to happen. If you were to write a book on insurance and use your book to increase your insurance sales, that's where you would go. But to write a book on because you want to help people stop smoking, it's very magnanimous of you, but you're going to lose the money that you put into the book. And it was like, there's been several people like that. They come to me because they want to write a book. And I say, well, what's the end game?
Mm-hmm.
What's the end game? It's got to be, where are you going with this? Because if it's just because you want to write a book, if you have the money for it, fine. But if you want the book to make you the money to open the doors, then you've got to connect it with what it is that you do.
You know, Susie, I think that's what makes you also so special. You're really authentic and you're real. I mean, you're not just taking someone's money, you're really guiding them to be successful and studying what their background is and their needs are. In fact,
2 days ago, this is a great story, Lynn. 2 days ago, I signed an author. No, I signed her last week, but we did her agreement 2 days ago. And when I signed, she works in the autism field, and she's brilliant. She works with parents, she works with teachers, she works with grandparents, she works with the whole field. After we did our initial talk, and she said yes, and we did all the paperwork, she emailed me and said, I want to do 10 books. And she listed all the books she wanted to do. And I wrote her back, I said, that's great. Let's start with the first one. So yesterday or the day before, when we finished the agreement, she said she wanted to talk to me about the books because now she wants to do 15. Wow. That's a very expensive proposition. And I said, so tell me what you want to do. And she listed all the things. I said, so this is what you're going to do. You're going to write 2 books. Now, granted, that's a $50,000 deal for me if it goes to 10 books. Mm-hmm. And I said, you're going to write 2 books. The first one is for the parents, and you want to do 15 more books. The second one is 2 pages on each of the books that you want to write, and you do the information from the book on your website. I just saved you $50,000, and your website is fluid. Your book is static. So you send them to your website, and because our industry changes a lot. When your industry changes, you change it on your website. You can't change it in your book.
Oh, that's excellent. So she saved herself money and she's got the book or the 2 books working for her. I
She's
love.
probably going to write 3 because we do have a program where we have a trilogy program. Where did I put that book? It was right here before. Ah, here it is. This woman wrote 3 books on end of life finances. Her name is Marie Burns.
Mm-hmm.
So this is 3 itty bitty books. You see, it has a bigger
Oh, it does
spine.
look thicker. Yes.
You've got 3 books in here. It's a trilogy because she wanted to do before, during, and after. Good books.
It's great. So you have a gift to give everyone. I'm going to put it up on the screen. I'd like you to tell everyone what you're giving them for being with us and for being interested in making a positive impact in the world with their story or their book.
So I am a hypnotherapist in another life, so to speak, and I created 4 hypnosis processes to write a best-selling book and 4 hypnosis or guided visualization downloads for increasing your wealth. And also, if you want a 30-minute consultation with me, that's available too. And all you have to do is visit http://bit.ly/gift from Susie. And we will send you the downloads and the opportunity to have a conversation with me to talk about your book and to see where you need to go in order to get the right publishing mechanism behind you.
I love that. You know, Susie, I am so grateful and honored to have you here. I mean, listen, everyone, 86 best-selling books that she's published. There aren't too many people I know who have that track record, plus a heart of gold right here, who's been recognized by the top people in the field. I'm just so grateful to know you, Susie, and I'm so glad we could introduce you to the world. And before we go, I'd like you to give a message to all the writers out there or the would-be authors to give them some suggestions on what is the most important thing you think they need to know in making their book a success.
You really have to work it. It isn't magic. I mean, there is magic there, but you really, really do have to work it. We had every Tuesday night, I have an author call. What used to be once a month, but when COVID hit, I said they need a touchstone every week. So on Tuesdays, and then last month I started bringing speakers in. Last night we had a gentleman on by the name of Rook, who's a master publicist. I mean, he's brilliant. And what he did was he talked to the group about what it takes to market your book. And so, for example, he said, take each chapter and do a webinar on it, do a seminar on it, do a Facebook Live on it. The world has opened because of COVID. We have more opportunity now than ever before because it can reach so many people. I have authors in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Greece, and I'm talking to someone later today or tomorrow, I can't remember, from Israel. So you have an opportunity to make a difference in the world. You have to get yourself out there. You can't stay hidden.
Right.
Get yourself out there.
The world needs your story.
The world needs you.
Your tips, whatever you want to call it, even if it's not a story, it is your insights, and the world needs to hear it. And you're able to bring it out for them.
Yeah, and it's fun.
We are very grateful. So I want to thank you, Susie. I'm excited to be able to also get your free downloads myself and study them. And I recommend everyone get in touch with Suzy Pruden. You will be so glad you did. And you'll also learn how you can make a bigger impact through your books. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Have
Lynn.
a wonderful day. Thank you, Susie. Bye-bye.